Hi, I'm Josh Rushing, sitting in for Lisa Fletcher, and you are in the stream. Today, the death of 4 students has led to another round of protests in Sudan. But will the demonstrations create political change? It's a story that you've asked us to cover. Our digital producer, Malika Bilal, is here looking out for your live feedback. Malika, activists have been sharing developments on this story using the hashtag Sudan Revolts. It's a story the stream's been following for more than a year. What are you saying?
Well, many of our members of our online community are saying that it's the opposition that needs to get its act together. Muhammad Ali tweets, "The only reform needed is within the opposition. As for the regime," he says, "it is already in self-destruct mode." So for those of you at home, we'd like to hear your voices also. Tweet us with the hashtag AJStream.
We're joined at the table by Scott Edwards, who's the Managing Director of Crisis Prevention and Response for Amnesty International. Scott, welcome.
Thanks for having me.
Sure. Of course, I already mentioned that our community asked us to cover Sudan revolts, and they did so using social media, which is also how we've been following many of the developments in this story. So thanks to Fatima, Tagreed, and Amru, who suggested today's topic. Share your story with us on Twitter, and you too could be in the stream.
Hi, I'm Sven. I'm a Norwegian studying in London, and I'm in the stream.
Sudanese protesters have taken to the streets over the last several days to call for an end to the government of President Omar al-Bashir. It all began with student protest over tuition. And this grainy YouTube video is one of those protests. Darfuri students say they're exempted from university fees under a peace deal between Sudan and a leading rebel group. The Ministry of Education disagrees, arguing the deal only applies to officially displaced students. Take a look at this eyewitness account explaining how the protests turned violent.
إبراهيم إسماعيل حامد طالب في جامعة الجزيرة كلية العلوم الزراعية فكانت في إشكال بتاع إنه طلاب دارفور إنه يسجلوا بقروش والمهم كانت في إلزام من الطلاب يوم الأحد ودار في إشكال إنه كان هجموا على الكيزان ضربوا من في مواجهات والاثنين والثلاث يوم الأربعاء دخل الشرطة كان الالتزام عالي من الناس رموا الزمين ودخل الشرطة وقام فضل المظاهرة وتم مضاردتنا بالعربات علمنا ضربوني عربيتين وبعد ما ضربوني بالتعكيز الضرب يعني الضرب كان مورع جدا فطاقوا في الراس في محل الراس نفسه كان ضرب كثير جدا شرطة وجهاز أمن الضرب هنا برضو كان إلى أن دخلت المستشفى ومن المستشفى بدون القسم كان السجن برضو لمدة يوم الثاني مباراة ثم بعد ما طلعنا من السجن أخذت الآن في المستشفى فمن نفس الدفعة عندنا ضبطنا الصادق سري أبوه الله يرحمه الآن في مشرح برضه.
Well, I think he was actually in the hospital in that video. In all, 4 activists were found dead in a nearby canal. Activists say their bodies bore signs of abuse and they blame the government. Officials say they drowned. Their deaths launched the protest that we're seeing now, the largest since June, which ended with a government crackdown. So will this round of protests end in political change, or will they wither under a security clampdown? We've got an activist on the ground in Khartoum, so let's get started. They've requested we conceal their identity for safety reasons. And I just want to add in here that some months ago, a Sudanese activist was detained after sharing their story with the stream. So we take this issue very seriously. We can confirm that Ahmed Ali, which is not his real name, is a Sudanese citizen journalist who's been reporting from the protest. Ahmed, I know yesterday was a big day. Tell us what you saw and what's happening today.
Hi, thanks for giving us the chance, the stream. We'll start with yesterday, actually. Yesterday, there was a protest in 3 universities. There was a protest at Khartoum University, there was a protest at Sudan University, and there was a protest in Islamic University. I actually went to the protest at the Islamic University. It started at noon inside the university. I actually arrived at around 3 o'clock. I noticed there was a huge number. There was actually five police cars outside, with each have like 10 police officers inside them, and one NIS car which have about 6 police officers outside, and not allowing anyone to go inside. I was going around the university. It's a very big campus, the Islamic University. I went around. I kept checking. They kept like 4 more police cars came very quickly with the sirens, and they went inside the university. I was looking around. Around 4 o'clock, actually, huge smoke started to come out from inside the university. I went around and I checked. I noticed the smoke, like a dark smoke, was coming out from the domes, the student domes outside. It was very huge. I noticed. I took a small video of that, and I started to saying I think it's fire because it was quite huge. This smoke went very heavily, went for a long time, in about 50 minutes actually. The like fire cars start coming inside, and in about after an hour after the fire, around 10 past 5 in the afternoon, the cars, the police cars came more and went inside, and at 5:30 students start to come outside actually with their bags. Like they were in a hurry, they were in shock. I would say more than 700 students were coming out with their bags. I asked what's happening. They said the police have burned the domes inside. They're saying more than 12 students have confirmed this to me. The police have burned the domes inside, and they said they have been. The police came. There was a protest for those died in Al Jazeera University. So they said the police came and the thugs came, the Rabata that works with the regime. They came and the thugs were brutally attacking the protesters. They said very brutally, and they said many were injured and many more were arrested.
Ahmed Ali, can I stop you there? I just want to clarify something you said. Did you say the police are burning down the dorms?
Yes. I mean, I had a clear confirmation from 12 students that the police have burned. This is the reason they burned the dorms.
At which university was that, Ahmed?
Islamic University.
Okay, we're going to get confirmation on that. I want to say thanks to citizen journalist Talal Al-Tayyib, who posted much of the video that you're seeing in our show today. Malika, let's go right to the community.
Well, Ahmed, I want to thank you for sharing, what you witnessed with us. But Sudan, of course, has seen protests before. One of our video commenters who left us a comment that I'd like you to listen to in just a second says that these protests are different for this reason. Have a listen.
I am Mohammed Al-Amin from Newcastle in the UK. I feel that the current protests may lead and pave the way towards political reform in the Sudan if they are sustained. The brutal murder of the students in Jazeera University has galvanized student protests throughout the country and added a new dimension which was weak in the past, namely transcending ethnic and tribal differences towards a national protest and revolt.
So Ahmed, he says these protests and these killings are different because they've galvanized people around tribal and ethnic differences. Would you agree?
Hello?
Yes, Ahmed,
Hello?
did you hear the video question? Would you agree that these protests have transcended ethnic and tribal differences?
Yes. I would say actually this first time a clear message is being sent to the government that there is like one Sudan. We all have the same blood. I mean, it's quite significant actually. This protest happening for Darfur student who's being killed. We know Darfur has been hit since 2003 with huge massacres and huge killing. There was a feeling that not enough is being done by the other parts, but this was clear message that we will not take to the racism by the government. Also, many cities they went out actually. Shandi, Al-Gadarif, Jazeera Aba, Madani, Khartoum. There was many cities out and started this protest.
All right, well, let's bring in our other guest here. Magdi El Ghazouli is on Skype. He's a Sudanese blogger and a fellow at the Rift Valley Institute. Ali Abdullah T is a Sudanese activist who's asked us to conceal his identity. Ali is not his real name. And Dr. Rabia T is a former advisor at Sudan's Ministry of Information and a current member of the ruling National Congress Party. We did invite government officials to join us. No one was available. Guys, welcome to the stream. Dr. Abdellatif, did you hear the accusation there that the police are burning down dorms at the Islamic University? Have you heard anything about that from where you are?
I don't have any information about the burning of police of Islamic University premises.
And I am now in Khartoum. There is nothing, no information like that. Everything is quiet. All the streets are quiet, and the people are carrying out their work without any disturbance. I don't think that this is an issue, and this issue is magnified only. I think maybe some students gathered inside the university, but in the streets all over Khartoum and all over the streets, we don't see any phenomena like that, or any. There is no sign for any demonstration.
Well, Dr. T, Dr. Abdullah T,
in our streets, and
let me interrupt you there. I want to ask about the 4 students who were found dead in the shallow ditch. Is it actually still the government line that they drowned there?
Yes.
Do you understand how that stretches the bounds of credibility to believe that 4 students drowned in a shallow ditch?
No, I don't think so. I don't think so. Nothing like that. You know, actually, the incidents that happened in Jazeera University has no relation with the political, because this subject is intentionally transferred to a political issue, but really it is not a political issue. It is about lifting an exemption of foreign students, who are about 156 people, students only. If we compare this number of Darfurians in the Jazeera University with the rest of the students, the whole and the total of students in the Jazeera, more than 20,000 students. And I think, according to the administration announcement, that they have already agreed with those students, and they have settled the problem, and they asked them to resume their studies in the university, and they have already lifted that meeting with whole one accord between students and administration. But suddenly, some students in the university attacked the administration and attacked the teachers. That's why this is the reason of involvement of police, so as to protect students and protect the staff of the university.
Speaking of the students, the 4 that were found in the water, there are reports that they were in police or security forces' hands, that they had been detained before they were found dead in the water. Have you heard anything about that report?
You know, actually, according to the news that the investigation carried out, and to know the reason of deaths of the students that fall in water, and the result of the investigation shows that there is no sign of attack by police or any sign of weapon. And what is the result of the investigation also shown that the students only they sunk in the water without any.
Oh, sounds like we may have lost audio there. So, Ali Abdellatif, you're not in Sudan at the moment, but you're active online. You're basically someone that President Bashir would call an online ghost. Are activists outside the country making the opposition appear larger than it actually is?
Well, I think after the January 2011 protests, the entire opposition movement learned a very valuable lesson not to overstate what is actually on the ground. After that, people got a general consensus that when people go out on the streets, activists and the expatriates, the Sudanese expatriates, would encourage them and report what's going on the ground. So at this point, all of the activists, most of them, if not all, understand that the action happens on the ground. That's where it starts, and it's our responsibility to shed light on these atrocities that are happening and repel lies from the Sudanese government that students who just happen to be activists, Darfurian activists, appear dead in a pond with burn marks, with bruises, with indications of using cattle prongs and tasers, and they decided to go to a pond close to the university and swim, and they drowned. This is insulting to the intelligence, to any person who would use common sense, who would look at the events and who would look at Sudan in the general, and look at the bigger picture and see what's going on over here.
Well, Magdi, Ali just mentioned responsibility, and I want to bring you in here with this tweet from Garifna Media, which of course is a student activist group. State bears first responsibility for the attacks on Darfuri students, which are rampant in all universities, and they haven't stopped them. And there's another from Ali Wasim who says there must be a clean investigation for the deaths of the 4 students, and the culprit should be punished. This case is sensitive because in this case, the students, their demands were apolitical, correct? Magdi, did you hear the question?
Well, the demand. I heard
like
that
we
you
might be
asked if
having
the students'
problems.
demands are political.
Go ahead.
I think they are political. It's a bit when Rabia says these are not political demands and they're just some student annoying student events. This is simply not true. The other thing that is not true is that these students, it's a fact that they simply drowned in a shallow ditch. This cannot be true because the Minister of Justice, who is a member of the cabinet in the government and in the ruling party, announced the formation of a committee of investigation to work out how these students died. So if we assume they didn't die as a result of security violence, we can at least say they died in the custody of the security services. How and the details of all that are yet to be known. So Rabia cannot make the claim that the government can walk out clean out of this. He simply cannot make that claim. There's no space for it. It goes against the decision of the Minister of Justice.
Magdi, can I stop you right there? I want to take exactly what you said and go back to Dr. Rabia Delt. Did you hear that? He says that you cannot make the claim that the government is not involved or responsible in some way for the 4 students who were found dead.
You know, actually, we are not judges. This case already is under investigation, and you know we have independent judicial system, and the case will take its way to to be judged by the court. And I think that we should not come over the result of the investigation. And I think that everything is clear, but I can insist that the case started by the Darfurian students, and instead of agreeing on what agreed upon between the students and the administration of the university, they attacked the staff, and they have injured the staff. And some people outside, university or inside the university, they are trying to find a reason to transfer such case to a political case. But this is really what happened, and I cannot say that police is behind that or not, but this is actually a subject to know the result of investigation, and after that also a judgment of our court. And I am sure that our courts and judicial system is independent.
Okay, all right, so let's go to a citizen journalist who's actually been at the universities to find out if what you say is true. Ahmed Ali, you were at the university yesterday and today, I believe. Is this true, the students are attacking the officials?
No, it's not true. The students are just protesting. They're normally just saying the slogan. Normally the attacks are happening by thugs that comes with the police, the thugs that are like pro-regime. The regime normally have them hired. Some of them would be students, like part of the regime party, and some coming from outside. They have like white trucks. They normally come. They wear plain clothes. And they have been brutally actually acting this time. The main difference between June and now is the government has been acting very brutally. I mean, the brutality that happened on Al Jazeera, killing the 4 students, burning the domes in Omdurman yesterday. That's just these 2 accidents are more than the whole of happened in June. Actually, this is the new.
But we do have
brutality.
We have video of students throwing stones, and the government says protesters have been violent, destroying property. Let's look at this brief video here. Look at this. This is students throwing stones. So you can't say that it's been only peaceful protests from the students, right?
Yeah, it's what I said is like the students have been attacked really by the thugs. So yeah, sometimes you get students who try to throw stones just to protect yourself. against brutality.
This is protecting themselves against police brutality.
No, no.
Because I don't know if you can see the video we're looking at, but it looks like the students are in offensive. Okay. It looks like the students are throwing rocks at police vehicles as they pass by.
No, that's different actually. That happened on Sunday.
Okay.
On the main souk actually. Sunday was quite exceptional day actually. The protest started in Khartoum University, and then it went on the Souk al-Arabis, the main market in Khartoum actually. Many people joined. This was like protest by quite different people, and on that protest actually there was some a violent act. I would say small actually, but the police start arresting many people, and then the people start throwing rocks at the police cars, so they move away actually.
I see. All right, let's go back. Let's get the community involved here. Malika.
Lots of tweets come in here, but Scott, I want to direct this one to you. This is from Francois, who says there's lots of repressed feelings toward the Sudanese government, coming firstly from the government's inability to abide to international agreements. And of course, that goes back to why these students were out there protesting in the first place. You have people on the ground, Amnesty does. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Well, I mean, there's certainly frustration, and what you saw with the protest in Jazeera State, you see what you see in many places, which is that students will peacefully come together, engage in a sit-in. I did that in college. We didn't have Twitter. But the frustration is the inability to have the space to enter any sort of political or civil dialogue. And much like we saw in June, we are very concerned that what we're seeing is arbitrary detention, in some cases signs of torture. In June there were killings and the use of live bullets against protesters. So I think the frustration may be less about the politics and the law and adherence to international agreements, and more about the fact that the Sudanese security forces just do not allow any exchange of ideas or dialogue.
All right, I want to go back to Ali Abdellatif. I want to ask you, you're online, you're activist, you're outside of the country. What do you think the chances are that this movement will actually lead to some sort of change, or will it wither and die again?
Well, I think this time around, people are paying attention and rallying around some of the root causes of Sudan's problem, which is the killing of Sudanese civilians, and under that context also having ethnic targeting of students, and not specifically in Jazeera University, but all around Sudan. The marginalized groups have been getting most of the violence and most of the death on their end. So this time around, people are rallying behind two familiar phenomenons, which are the targeting of the Darfur students, but most importantly, targeting of Sudanese students, as well as the violence that happens against students, and as the gentleman was saying, the lack of any kind of exchange of ideas or dialogue, suppressing of civil liberties, and more importantly, the suppression of human rights. So that's why people are starting to open their eyes right now to what's been going on.
Speaking of opening their eyes, Megdi, I want to bring you in on the back of that. There's a tweet from Amr who says the reform that's needed in Sudan is within the opposition by aligning itself with the youth movement's demands. We only have about 45 seconds for you to answer that, but tell us about the opposition and whether or not it's the answer.
Well, there are several oppositions in Sudan. I mean, what you're seeing now, this youth movement is the new arrival on the scene. But my fear is that it's repeating on occasions the same mistakes of the old opposition. One mistake is possibly to run away from the immediate demands of the Darfur students to a strategic goal that they can't achieve right now, right here. We need to bring focus back to what these Darfur students actually died for.
All right, we have to stop it right there, but log on right now. Go to stream.aljazeera.com so you can hear more about what's going on in Sudan. On Thursday, they're outcasts living in isolated slums outside of Yemen cities. We examined the plight of dark-skinned Yemenis who are called al-Akdam, or servants. Until then, we'll see you online. Great. Welcome back to the Post Show. We're talking about the student uprising in Sudan. We were just speaking to Magdi El-Ghazuli, who is a blogger and a professor. Magdi, you were just saying that you wanted to bring the focus back to what these 4 students died for. Will you please finish your point?
Yeah, of course I understand the strategic goal of political transformation in the country, that's true, but to achieve that strategic goal you need to make some tactical gains. One tactical gain would be to broaden the base of the student movement and the youth movement, the peaceful base of that movement. And one way of doing that is backing the demands of these students, actually backing these demands. And these demands are very cut clear, and they issued a clear statement that very few people are reading. The statement came from the Darfur Students Association, and it said our demands are first, justice. This means bringing the perpetrators to justice, which is a very logical thing to say under these conditions. The second thing, exemption of Darfur students from tuition fees according to the Doha Document for Peace in Darfur, which is a document that the government is committed to, apparently, or says it is committed to, and the Liberation and Justice Movement is committed to. So they need to work that out. How to do this, how to help the Darfuri students finish their studies. This is the immediate reason for the protest, and it should be addressed before jumping to the bigger strategic goals. Otherwise, you lose the momentum, because you need to achieve these tactical gains to reach the biggest strategic goal of widening your base and expanding your constituency and generating a political movement. But you can't generate a political movement from one day to the other. This requires time and requires building confidence.
All right, so let's go to Dr. Abdullah T. Are you still there?
Yes.
Okay, great. I'd like you to respond to what Scott from Amnesty International said on set, that Sudan is lacking the political space for the students to safely have these kind of protests.
I don't think that this is correct, because you know, Darfurians actually there was a decree by the Vice President Dr. Al-Haj Adam that Darfurian people and Darfurian students should be exempted, and this is according to the procedure, and this procedure to be implemented by the Darfur authority, which established according to the document of peace that signed in Doha. And this procedure should not be actually taken as a political issue. And I don't think that the peace, what signed in Doha, this document of peace, is now actually implemented, and actually the implementation of this document is going on by the authority of Darfur, which head by Dr. Tijani Sisi. And now a lot of discussion held by this authority and the federal government, and they have already agreed upon how to complete the procedure of exemption of Darfurian people. And this is actually something which is far away from the political issue which is now we are talking about, because there is nothing called uprising, no uprising in Sudan, no demonstration in Sudan except in universities, and this chaos.
It looks like the audio dropped there. But Ahmed, I want to go to you. I want to pick up on something that a lot of our community members are tweeting us about. You have doubters, even among supporters. This from Osama, who says, great revival of the protest movement in Sudan. The journey to victory is far from over, though. Another from Armin, who says, reminder to everyone, just because the latest Sudan revolts won't bring down the regime, Armin says, doesn't mean they aren't hugely significant. And one more from Ismail, who says, the question now, can the Sudan revolts, is it Sudan revolts, or is it just an angry protest? So will this turn into lasting change, Ahmed?
Good point, actually. No one really can predict, actually, if this is going to topple the regime or is this like more and more protests. But certainly since January last year, there have been more and more protests. We've seen the June and July, and now this is happening. I mean, it's quite hard to predict, actually. I mean, if a mass revolts are gonna happen, if how the nation think, how are they all gonna go out. But certainly, I mean, more and more protests are happening, and more and more people are joining. I think for me, Sunday was a special day. Like the protests went in the main markets, more people are joined. Also, the government, as I said, brutality are bringing more protests, but we cannot really, I think nobody can really say if this is going to happen, Because as we said, the nation we've seen in Syria, I mean, the children in Daraa started to protest in the small city of Daraa, and suddenly the whole country went revolting after 40 years of silence. So nobody really can say this is the moment actually that the revolts would say. I will give that, but I would say certainly more and more revolts are happening now.
Ali, I'd like to ask you, what's the role of social media in this?
Well, I believe this role of social media should be not only to bring out the truth and bring out the facts on the ground, but it should also be to tie in all of these incidents into the bigger picture that's happening. You know, people in Sudan have been revolting since 1982. Darfur has been revolting since 2003. We need to understand why people are revolting, why people have been carrying arms for decades, and just fit that into the bigger picture of what's going on right now. These Darfur students, the country has failed them in every single aspect. They come from a war-torn area, and they're denied tuition that's equal to maybe $200. Waived, the government wouldn't waive that, and on top of that, they see the corruption that's going on in the government. So this is political, this is social, this is humanist, this is everything, contrary to what Dr. Abdullah T is saying. And as Majdi alluded to, we believe that the student bodies, the Darfurian student bodies right now in Khartoum are the key to turning around these Sudan revolts. It's up to all of the political players, all of the political parties, all of the civil society organizations to get behind them on this cause, because this is the cause that will change Sudan. It encompasses all of the issues that Sudanese in general are suffering from ethnic targeting to war to corruption to every single aspect that shows that this government, the longer it stays in power, the more Sudanese people will die and the more we'll see unrest in Sudan.
Were you able to follow his comments there?
Yes.
What is it from an Amnesty International's point of view? Where is Sudan in terms of human rights, particularly after the divide?
I mean, not in a good place, and I think that's certainly what this incident highlights. Again, peaceful protest is something that we're all entitled to because of our inherent humanity. And what we've seen is, both in June and most recently, we've seen security services round up protesters, those who might be perceived as opposition. The 4 victims who were found dead were arrested the night before, and we can't confirm that they were ever released from custody. So we see this heavy-handed response both to peaceful protests. We see the security forces in places like southern Kordofan rounding up people because of, you know, what we fear is because of their ethnic identity, being held in detention without any due process. We've seen torture and killing by the security forces. So the human rights situation isn't good.
When you say it isn't good, I want to get a sense of, though, where it's going. Is it trending toward worse, or is it just it's been bad for a long time and it's more of the same?
You know, these things tend to accumulate over time, especially when there's no justice or accountability. And what we've certainly seen from the government of Sudan in past, when it has committed to investigations, we don't see independent and impartial investigations. We don't see security forces who are actually responsible for these egregious violations of law being held to account. And so long as that history is there, then every instance such as the one we've seen is an accumulation. So the trend is worse.
Is there any last word from the community?
Yeah, 2 good ones to kind of wrap it up. Samahir says, reforms aren't needed. Radical change is what's needed. Violence practiced by the regime, he says, has risen to a whole new level. But then let's end it off with Modik, who says, the discontent with the government has always been there. The death of the students only fueled it. It's just a matter of time. Trust me.
All right, so tomorrow we're talking about the outcasts living in isolated slums outside of Yemen cities. We examine the plight of dark-skinned Yemenis who were called al-Akdam, or servants. And until then, we'll see you online.